emotional damage.
So what do you think about this? I mean, the interview with Putin and Tucker Carlson just hit yesterday.
Dude, it's blowing up.
Dude.
It's already got more views than
300 million or more?
Well, they were saying
more than Super Bowl.
Yeah.
More than 300 million right now?
Let me check. It's a lot.
It was like...
People were saying, and I was watching it too, man. I did see it when I was watching it, the night we were supposed to play.
Yeah.
It would come up, and then it would go down. It would come up, then it would go down.
Interesting. It was just trying to balance the analytics.
I don't know.
On it
I mean, everyone's like, oh, YouTube's trying to...
187 million.
Yeah, still, that's
so
insane.
much, dude.
That's more than...
And a ton of those comments, dude, are in Russian. If you translate them, it's all, to me, good comments. Like, dude, we're not, a lot of people saying, like, we're not war hungry. A lot of us Russian citizens don't want this, and it's...
Well, there's 140 million Russians, 150 million.
I don't know.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
That's what he said. There's 150 million of us. Yeah. We're not that vast compared. We have a lot of land, but not as many people. China is what he mentioned.
A lot of resources.
I don't know, dude. It was interesting to see him more humanized.
That will definitely. It's easier to get along with someone when you humanize them. He seemed. So we're all gonna say and agree. He seemed calm.
Yeah.
He seemed respectful.
He seemed very relaxed. He needed water.
Relaxed.
He needed a lot of water, dude. He kept coughing so bad, dude.
And he needed. And he didn't allow traditional journalism, which makes sense. That's not usually something that they do there.
Oh, dude.
So he's like, I'm going to tell you this 30-minute story, which was impressive, whether someone's in his ear telling him it or not.
Yeah.
It was impressive to see that he could spell out since the 800 AD,
something like that, dude.
and just continue on what shaped what, where's this.
Yeah.
So he knows his history, or at least it appeared he did. Whether he said it accurately or not, I'm not exactly sure.
I believe this was the first interview in 4 years.
He does not, dude. He doesn't get
from us or just anyone.
He doesn't in general. 4 years.
What was that female that did the interview with him? Clark? Megan?
Maybe
with Fox or something?
Yes, but it was cut. He cut it in. As soon as it started, he said no because she started pressuring him.
Okay. All right.
I think now...
I mean, this is just over 2 hours.
He didn't...
2 hours 11
I don't
minutes.
think Tucker asked a lot of super invasive questions, personally.
No.
I do
he
think...
was smart.
I do think...
Yeah, you want to survive.
That well, I was just going to say, I think it takes a lot of balls to go to Moscow and do that, dude. With him and I think 4
the amount of
guys.
Snipers aiming at him.
Or just
100%, dude.
Or just a C4 under his seat that he didn't know about, you know? One question that was very funny to me, and it really, I'm not going to say, I'm not like a Russian sympathizer by any means, but like,
fine.
when Tucker said, who blew up Nordstrom? And he said, you, right? And then, everyone's like, it wasn't, but who else really, though, does have the ability to go to the bottom of the Baltic Sea?
Sure.
And do it
clandestinely.
To a point. Yeah,
be
exactly.
effective.
And
who does it harm?
Yeah.
It harms. That was a pipeline, a natural gas pipeline that fed funds to Russia.
Yeah.
So of course, it wouldn't make sense on the grand scale for them to do it to themselves. No, it hurt Germany really bad because they were getting that. Whether Germany knew about it or was cool with it or what, clearly they weren't too upset.
I think there's so much bullshit, dude, that happens in politics that, like, no matter what is said, there's always something or someone that's like, dude, that's not true. That really didn't happen. Yeah. And it's like, how the F do you know unless you were there, right? That's like when he was talking about trying to join NATO. Truthfully, I don't see any reason of him to lie about that. I mean, because he was like, who really runs the country? Dude, presidents don't run this country. I don't think they have for a long time, man. I think the people who are appointed in Congress and all that shit is who runs it, man.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, every state has their own governors, their own mayors. And it's a hierarchy.
It is.
That was interesting for him to say he doesn't understand how the individual states have their own. But that's just because the culture and the political realm is completely different there.
It is, yeah.
More of a dictatorship.
It is
democracy.
It's wild, dude. It's wild to see. Just because everyone, thinks he's the boogeyman, right? And it's like, it always cracked me up.
He even said that a few times.
I was saying, I was saying this
It used
when
to be.
Hillary Clinton was running for president, and it's just, it always seems to ring true. But like, you know, back then, you remember it was like Russia hacked the elections, Russia did this, Russia did that, and it's so easy to use them as a scapegoat because
Sure.
one, they don't ever say anything on their media to counteract what we're saying.
Right.
Putin is just like,
But-
all right,
Yeah.
yeah, we did it. You
But
know?
but very well could be doing it.
Yeah.
But it's not. I don't even know if that stuff's so relative because of, just what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Like, okay, here's what I would say just as far as historically. If we saw things with our eyes, or there's videos to prove it now, which thank God we have that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
We saw this thing. The problem, and I'm kind of foreshadowing what we'll talk about, but the problem that I had, first off, I did enjoy, I don't like Putin. I'm not a sympathizer of Russia, but I think it's fair to listen to all sides and hear what they have to say. Yeah. If they're a liar, it'll come out. If they're not, it'll come out. It did humanize him.
Mm-hmm.
It did give him a platform. He did seem calm, sharp, coherent.
Mm-hmm.
So any of those, he's sick and dying, and it may not really be him. It's him. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
So that whole...
He's very coherent.
It's probably better.
He's not. His mind is there.
What?
Like his
it's
health,
probably
I know his health. But.
One person, who this is, you know him.
Yeah.
But one person I wish that was here.
Yeah.
Brian Lusk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he does so much due diligence and research, and he on his channel said his opinion on it was so well and articulately spoken, and it's I'm trying to remember because I did watch that video, and I'm trying to remember. Because he talks very fast and he uses big words, So it's like for me to absorb it, I'm like, I should take notes.
Rewind.
He talked a lot about it, and he had a bunch of really solid viewpoints.
He did.
But to go back to what you were saying, I don't think any of us here.
Yeah, let's plug him real quick. That's Brian Lusk. It's Brian _Lusk, LUSK.
Yes, Brian _Lusk on YouTube.
Yep.
You can check him out.
You can see him on, he has another, that's his personal channel, but he works a lot with Geopolitics Daily and I believe Business Basics. So you can check those out. There'll be like little green lettering there. It's pretty easy to spot them.
Bunch of really good information.
But what were you going to say? Yeah, dude.
I was just branching off of what you said. None of us here are like, let's go Russia, right?
Sure.
No. But I think there is...
Historically, that would be almost impossible.
I think there's a lot of interesting things that he did say, though, that like you don't know about, like him asking Clinton to join NATO, and then him asking Bush for this, missile defense thing, and then they're like, nah, sorry, we can't do it.
At the last minute.
Yeah, and it's just like...
When I watched that right there, right, I thought about something, during the Cold War and during the Soviet Union era. Think about all of the older generations, our parents, grandparents.
Yeah,
right?
Red Scare, for sure.
They dislike this nation.
Yeah.
Right? And I think Putin he did say it in the right way, right? He's like, everyone's pretty much pushed us aside.
Yeah.
It could be that mentality, that mindset from the older generations, right? Because it's like they still...
Well, they're running the country, mainly.
Threat. Exactly.
Older guys.
So like Clinton,
That's just
right?
where it is.
That's it. So...
He's older and he's running.
Yeah.
The people of the Red Scare are running.
That's a real thing,
right?
You're
and others.
Hating someone for 40, 50 years.
Yeah, that's a ton of animosity.
It's inside them to the core, and that's not going to go away.
So to complement that, one of the positive things, or where at least I understand what he's saying, truthful or not, if he truly feels this way, I don't know. But it came across kind of genuine, at least. And I think that if you're denied, or... Let's just break it down to like the basketball team. If you're a kid wanting to play on the basketball team and no one picks you over and over again, you're going to feel some kind of way about that.
I'm just going to set picks forever.
Yeah.
Sharpening your knife.
That's from Shane Gillis.
So
I can't keep that.
When you keep doing that and keep kind of trying to play ball with this group, and they keep... And maybe they bring you in, right? And then it wasn't a good time because they're like, yeah, you're cool, but... we're not really going to go through with this. And I don't know that he ever tried to join NATO. I just think he was open to the idea because he thought maybe they would offer after Clinton said, yeah, we can talk. And then he comes back and says, no, they're not going to take it, man. How would you feel You even tried to play nice and be like, all right, you guys haven't liked me in the past, but I'm open to it if you are. And then they're like, yeah, I think we are. And then they said, no, slam the door in your face. You will feel some sort of way.
Absolutely.
And that is human.
It is,
and that's why he seemed genuine. But there was 30 minutes of him just laying out history, then another 15 minutes of that. Yep. I'm victimized, my country's victimized. Maybe true, maybe valid, maybe reasonable. But then, unequivocally, there was constant things that he said that contradicted what I've heard him say. You can look on YouTube and find him saying in the past, which was what occurred in 2014, which for our viewers who, that was a long time ago, when Crimea was taken over, they had the Maidan situation in Kiev, which was essentially an insurrection, if you will, an ousting of the pro-Russian president. And there was a bloody battle, small battle against the civilians and the police, Berkut.
Was that
and that bounced.
The Georgians were involved in that, right?
Well, there's so much speculation, but supposedly the Georgians helped orchestrate the overthrow. They were not pro-Russia, and then when looked back on it, they blame all sorts of people. So who knows what truly happened on that portion, other than the original president of Ukraine before Poroshenko. Anyway, the original one. He was supposedly pro-Russian, and the people rose up against him. The Berkut, which is like the special police, kind of military kind of police, came in, and gunfire was exchanged, cocktails, it got bloody. The president was then ousted / found asylum in Russia. And then a new one was replaced with Poroshenko, and then everyone raided his house. The old president's mansion, documents were found, whatever. So then during that, Putin says, in this interview, he says specifically, there was instability there, and I get that. This part, I feel like it makes sense, whether it's true or not, or motivating or not. It makes sense. I have assets in the Black Sea. This is unstable. This country literally is having a coup d'etat, whatever he was saying, a coup, but an actual physical military insurrection. You overthrow the president. Now that country's unstable. I think so. That's fair to say. 100% fair.
It was.
And then, if you can't control who's the president, like that's like kind of siding this. But if whatever happened after the election with Biden coming in, where the Capitol was stormed, if that actually went through and things happened, that's kind of what did happen there.
Guy with the moose
crazy,
head, dude.
The QAnon guy.
Yeah, dude.
So
that guy,
being escorted by the police on video, that's a whole other thing, though. But anyways,
so
that's next week, guys.
Yeah, dude.
The Black Sea Fleet was there. So anyway, he has a lot of resources that he felt were jeopardized. Okay, Crimea. I mean, I was literally engaged there, so I feel some sort of way. And that was a gift to Ukraine originally, okay? Not long ago. So there's no disputing that. Russia gave it to Ukraine in a peace way. So let's fast forward the Donetsk. So that maybe. But when he starts saying crap about Donetsk and Luhansk, which are these small territories to the east of Ukraine, that is where the fighting started in 2014. And he says... This is literally, this is word for word what he says. He says that Ukraine came in with aircraft and started killing civilians. And they're Russian speakers, so he felt he had an obligation to save Russian speakers. He did say that originally, I remember. And he also said that this time. However, that's not what happened at all. This is, if we all remember and take look at our footage that we physically can see, not just reports, tanks, armored personnel carriers, helicopters.
Sure.
Guys, the green men come in in Russian uniforms with all their patches and everything taken off. And they're pro-Russian separatists that have these battalion-sized mechanisms that come into Luhansk.
So I forgot, it was in 2014, later that year, Putin did clarify, said, we had a lot of Russian soldiers in the area on leave.
No,
on
yeah, I didn't even know.
vacation.
Yeah. Oh, I
He
didn't
said
even
that
know
in
that.
like
He's just trying to beef up
September or
reasons.
October, of that year. So he
Mhm.
did say like, yeah, we had people on leave in the area.
Yeah, leave with tanks. Leave is when you
Exactly.
go hang out.
And there was a lot of Russian military. We know
So
that.
you see that, yeah, you can't say that it was. So Russia was taking soldiers and their equipment and like an entire battalion and pushing Luhansk and Donetsk, and even the Black Sea Fleet pushing Crimea. Now, what happened in Crimea is just a tad different because Crimea actually
They just
folded.
gave up.
They gave up. The
nothing.
mayor,
Yeah.
the resistance was like, okay, fine.
But
And they
in
traded.
Crimea, the main populace there, are they pro-Russian
Right now,
right now? Because honestly,
that's such a topic, man.
Is it kind of like
Mm-hmm.
World War II era France, where they had a flag for every country that was there? Like when the Germans were there, they were pro-German.
I
when
think
the
it's
Americans there, they were pro-American.
It's probably a little worse because I'm trying not to name people in my family, but there is a lot of discord between people who are in Crimea now and the rest of Ukraine. They feel that the Crimeans have betrayed them, but a lot of it is misinformation. Russia has locked down their social media, has locked down what they see on TV, and if you're being told day in and day out, this is what's happening, you're gonna believe that. So that's why I think,
and especially with that
censoring.
bridge he made.
Yeah,
that bridge really, it's like you're bordering another nation, and you're just being fed that nation. Right?
Yeah,
like in Japan, on the northmost side of Japan, it's like it's like actual Russian on the northmost side of Japan.
No shit, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's weird, and it's like the very point, and it's Russian, Chinese, and like all these like people just speak it because it's so close, and Japanese influence is not reaching it, but other influences is reaching that. Same thing's happening to Crimea or any of the regions along the border of Russia. They're influenced, right? Stronger than what Ukraine.
Yeah, it's a propaganda war.
I do think, I want to go back to what you were saying, but I do think, to me, the most concerning thing is when he was talking about, the economy, stability of the economy.
His or ours?
Both of ours,
or
dude.
China. Okay.
I mean, like, you look at it, like, there was a guy on Joe Rogan's podcast that was talking about, like, the stability of China and, like, China's capabilities to go to war, and he's like, dude, like, I'm an expert in Chinese policy and blah, blah, blah. He's like, they can't afford to feed their own people right now. Then you're like, I don't know, man. They're launching missiles and shit over the top of Taiwan and stuff, dude. They seem to be pretty ballsy,
China right now China is extremely wealthy.
Yeah.
You would not see
the country as a whole.
Yeah, well,
we have
like this,
Los
right?
Angeles where people are homeless on the streets. That doesn't mean our whole populace represents homelessness.
Well, that's just it, right?
That's the same thing there. They have low-income areas just like we do.
Yep.
And I think that gap for them is breaking more. It's not like from the 90s or the 80s from the old movies, right? Like everything's just poor.
Yeah.
Or the early 2000s. Right now, it's a very wealthy.
Somebody had also touched on, and this is the same subject, but somebody had also touched on, and I can't remember who it was to give them credit for it, but they had said, and it might have been the same guy, that Russia is in a very weird state right now with this war in Ukraine because they're pumping a ton of resources towards that front. And then they are also exposing themselves, though, with China. So if China wanted to make a move on Russia, they could, 100%. Yeah. And then Xi Jinping would be Putin's big brother, and he doesn't want that because Putin wants to be an independent country.
Well,
totally, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll never be. I don't think they'll ever be a superpower economically wise like we were, or China or somebody like that, or India. But he definitely wants his independence, and nobody telling him what to do.
The BRICS nation stuff.
The BRICS.
Like, see, if they would have joined NATO, they would have been more on our currency. Yeah, right? Sure. I don't know whose idea was to not. That was done.
Yeah.
Now
it hurts our dollar. He speaks on that.
Oh, it's crazy. Now BRICS, it's India, China, UAE, Egypt, Iran,
India, dude, the
Brazil,
flip-flop holders.
Brazil. Did you say this is more, way more than NATO?
Yeah,
like India, 1.2 7 billion
China,
people.
the largest population.
1.9 billion. Brazil, 200 million, right? So, like, as for, like, populace and actual currency and money, they are... They're
and
going
it's
way above
unified
us right
because
now.
we have a dollar, Europe has euros or the pound. So
Yeah.
that's such a... Yeah, let's... Man, that's
I
just
do
so
want to
much.
go back to what you were saying, though,
Sure.
on that whole thing.
Yeah,
too,
let's hit Donetsk and Luhansk, right? So those are the territories that have been fighting. You know, we all collectively have a friend who's been involved in that stuff. And as first, you know, what was the Minsk agreement? I'll touch on that in just a moment. But anyway, all these resources came in. They were Russian soldiers who just took their stuff off, which is insane. Like, why? Dude, what are you doing? But you can't hardly... Trust me, you know, I've been in hunter-killer teams with tanks and Bradleys and stuff. Yeah. It's hard to communicate in a NATO force just in training.
Yeah.
If you're doing it, coordinating in real life, okay, you have to be connected to the military. You have to be the military.
Yeah.
So what happens is Russia actually pushes in with their military and pretends that they're not, and they're pro-Russian separatists. And then Ukraine defends its territory because that is, they literally started war. So the war actually happened back in 2014.
Yeah.
Crimea went peacefully, whatever. Luhansk and Donetsk did not. And they've been fighting. And so, and then the neo-Nazi claims, that holds no water. I don't know if that's just because he said it before and he felt he had to hold on to it. But he mentions that in the interview and says he talked to Zelensky about it. There's no, I would argue there's far more issues with neo-Nazism in Russia.
Canada, dude.
Anywhere. There's not a epidemic with neo-Nazism in Ukraine. There's just not. Even the Azov battalion. No.
He did say, though, that it's very true that the United States does control almost all the world's media. And we're funneling all of this money to Ukraine, right? And then we turn around and say, well, we want this fighting to stop. And he's like, well, stop funding them, and the fighting will stop. And I see it from both sides.
Yeah, you can't. Either one can't stop.
Right. Like, there needs to be a collective agreement. But where I was going with this is Tucker Carlson asked Zelensky for an interview. He was declined several times. And then you start thinking about it, like, he was probably told he does not get an interview or you don't get another cent.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to think about it like that because that goes back to when Biden was like, well, I told him I want him fired or we're going to hold on to that $7 or $8 billion,
like,
you know?
Right now, Zelensky would only do interviews with, like, CNN.
Yeah, MSNBC.
And in the interviews, I've watched them. They're, like, insane. It's like, oh, yes, I really like the rock band.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
Yeah,
it is.
The CNN chick was flirting with Zelensky.
Yeah, it's bullshit.
You saw that, right? So,
dude, just be a journalist.
Yes.
And
that's
modern day journalism is
it's
actual
crazy,
cancer.
Dude.
It is actual cancer. If you had dudes like Brian Lusk or Tucker Carlson, like him getting let go by Fox, best thing that ever happened.
Actually, Fox News put that clip at the interview on their channel and had to post his new news station.
Yeah.
As what do you call it? You know, like
yeah. So that's, I mean, let's hit a few more of the topics of what like actually was said.
Well, Anthony was loaded over there. Anyway.
Were you?
Yeah, I was getting loaded.
I saw your eyebrows go up.
He cocked it back. He aimed right at me, dude.
I did.
Like, don't point that at me. That's
so
loaded,
one thing you mentioned it once, the demeanor of Putin, right?
In control.
100% in control.
Yeah.
But you mentioned
when he asked for the thing, he's just like,
bring the what?
Classic Russian.
Bring the what?
Belvai.
He mentioned, war with the U.S.
Yeah. Does he want it? No.
No, he doesn't want it. But
nobody wants these.
He says China doesn't want it.
Nobody wants these hands, dog.
Oh, the thing we talked about.
Yes, about the power in Ukraine, right? So.
Wow. Yeah, we talked about that.
I thought about this a lot,
okay.
And I've been looking at footage and whatnot, and right now, in Ukraine, he's using the worst stuff they've got.
Yeah. Very
little units are using like the good T-90s. Very few. They're not using a lot of this good equipment. They're using more mercenary groups. They're secondary groups.
They're using trained.
They're using tanks from the 50s and 60s and 70s artillery as fodder. That's all it is. They're not using any main resources. He doesn't care right now.
Because he said what you and I spoke about.
Yeah.
that
I wasn't there, so you should tell me.
he said along the lines of, do I want a global conflict? Absolutely not.
No.
Do I think I can handle a global conflict? He said no. I don't want a significant conflict, which means that he sees the war in Ukraine as insignificant.
Yes.
And in my opinion, that doesn't mean he's going to quit. That means
He'll
go forever
Yeah.
if he wants to.
And that's what I'm saying about the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
That makes
He'll go forever.
yeah. I mean, that's you got to think.
And
It doesn't bother him.
No, it
So
doesn't.
continue. And
Yeah.
it'll be egg on his face if he stops right now.
Yeah.
he could end the war
No one's doing that
tonight.
But he
He
won't
actually
because it doesn't bother him.
Well,
He
did.
knows where Zelensky's at.
He
He knows
did.
where the whole staff of
Yeah.
Ukraine is at. Everybody.
And another thing, and we're not siding with Russia
No.
here, guys, and we're just being objective here. And when he says, I will have, it looks bad. I don't think it's fair because it was not in context. But
Yeah.
when he says President Zelensky will not have any sort of peace talks with me,
Yeah.
that's true, but that was not in context. The context is Zelensky says, while they are on our property, while we are going to have to give back Crimea, Luhansk, Donetsk, offers off.
Yeah.
Which I don't
Zelensky-
think that's a
he
realistic
said-
thing,
Zelensky
but that's
said
what he's saying.
something. I forgot how long ago he said that he won't have peace talks
Sure.
Yeah.
with Russia as long as Putin is president.
Oh, I didn't hear that part. no.
But yeah.
But how are you going to say that you're not going to have a peace talk with someone until they leave your country?
Yeah.
Well, that's the authority
Yeah.
for the peace talk.
Yeah.
If a gun's not to your head, there's no reason to negotiate.
Exactly.
Well, it's called Russian
Exactly.
roulette.
Leave and then come back.
No.
That's not going to
See,
happen.
that
So
analogy's
we
perfect,
have to
yeah.
be realistic there.
Yeah.
One of the other things that Putin said that I think is just hogwash was the neo-Nazi thing.
Yeah.
We'll just quickly say, no, historically, Ukraine does not have a neo-Nazi problem. It never has. It doesn't. Even the Azov battalion is not neo-Nazi.
I do think it's important to say, and this, but you know this because you have ties
Sure.
to Ukraine.
Yeah.
And
My family.
You've been there.
Mhm.
You've spent
Yeah.
a significant amount of time there, almost
Sure.
all throughout the country.
Yeah.
So I think it's important
Yeah.
that we say that as a.
Yeah.
And we have a significant friend, the three of us, that
Yeah.
has had a
ton.
ton of time in Ukraine.
Ton of experience.
a ton of experience in Ukraine.
That's the
so-
other thing, the Minsk agreement.
Yeah.
He said that the Minsk agreement wasn't working. They were in Turkey trying to figure this out, and Ukraine wanted.
Well,
This-
I think that right there in Turkey, right? I think that was a turning point.
Yeah,
And that fell
100%. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
Who made it fall through though?
The Russians, and I'll tell you how I know that for
Yeah.
sure, like
Yeah.
100%. I mean, you'll have to just take my word for it, but there's others who
I don't believe
were there.
I don't know.
I mean,
Lie.
how can you, man? I'm not on Fox News or CNN, so
Yeah.
you can. There was a ceasefire during the Minsk agreement, there where they were doing the Minsk agreement, okay? And our friend who was there said that they were not shooting. There was a ceasefire for a few hours, like 4 hours or something,
Mhm.
and then they kept getting shot at and bombed and guys getting killed. And you can only take that so much. And then they're like, you know what, F it. If someone has a weapon and they're shooting at us, we're gonna blast them. And then eventually it just blew up.
Did he really pull him back from Kiev?
That's another thing that I was gonna bring that up last
Yeah.
because I don't.
Yeah,
We talked about that a lot.
Yeah.
We do not know. I don't know if there's a way to know. Supposedly, Putin puts it out. If anyone remembers, there was a point where there was this convoy of what, 3, maybe way longer,
was
miles and
miles.
miles
6,
and
7
miles
miles, something like that. Yeah.
of armor, just anything that can take
Soldiers,
out a
Yeah.
country, and they were right out the gate of Kiev.
Yeah.
I mean, within a few hours
Yeah.
of Kiev, and they were stopped. And everyone was like, is this an act of God? Did they run out of gas? And eventually they did run out of gas.
Yeah.
And for some reason, it never made sense to me, and we're trying to be fair here. And he said the reason for that last night was because they were having negotiations through Turkey on not pushing Kiev, being told by the world, do not push Kiev. You can continue to maintain the territories that you
Sure.
have right now.
Sure.
And that was on the table.
Yeah.
And that's why he didn't push. Because he was respecting
Yeah.
what the agreements were being made. And then at the last second,
I
supposedly Turkey, whoever was on the other side,
Yeah.
said, nah, we're good. And by that time, strategically, it was unavailable.
I think to some degree, at least to me, he seems like he could be a pretty reasonable person to some degree. I think it's
Well,
like when he was talking about Joe Biden or reaching out to Joe Biden, and he was like, "Why would I?" I mean, really, why would he?
Well, he hasn't talked. Our president of the United States, who is funding the majority of this war against, hasn't talked to the leader of Russia one time since the beginning.
Yeah.
That tells me, I'm getting kind of mad. I don't usually get mad. That tells me that they don't want it to stop, and that pisses me off.
Yeah, of course they.
That pisses me off, dude. And
it secures votes, man.
And one thing,
secures sympathy votes
for Putin, right?
Yeah.
We have to remember as well. This is the president of a nation of 150 million people.
Yeah.
This is not just some general or captain or some politician. This is the leader of a very big nation
who claims to see the whole picture.
Yeah.
Not that he does accurately, but he claims to.
He's smart. That's what he is smart. Insanely smart. It's weird.
Yeah, he was like KGB, wasn't he?
He was.
Oh yeah.
Spetsnaz, KGB. It was. But,
KGB.
But he, I do believe that Turkey or someone, he agreed to that. I think he did. I think as a leader of a nation, he said, "Okay, we won't push," because I think it's like
that's the only excuse.
Exactly.
To not push.
I think it could have been like, "Hey, it'll look bad for Russia. You would destroy a nation. A lot of people might die, like really die, if they push that." Like, like a lot.
Something happened, and we don't know what it is. We heard his side.
Yeah.
Also, Zelensky supposedly told Tucker, "No, I will not interview with you."
Yes, yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I meant like right now.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I was.
Okay, I thought you were talking about
he had asked to do not to cut you off, Anthony. I'm sorry, but he had asked to do the interview with Zelensky before.
I thought it was after. My bad.
No,
okay.
I'm almost 100% it was before. Yeah,
each time was.
And because he wanted to have an even.
But and it could not be Zelensky's fault. It is because you. Okay, first off, we're the orchestrator of our decisions, right?
Yeah, sure.
You make a good decision or a bad, it's on you. However, supposedly a lot of these things, even when there was going to be agreement to just stop the war.
Yeah.
Literally, now I don't to what agreement was it? Do you keep the territories you had?
Yeah.
Was it fair? I don't know, but there supposedly was a way to stop the war, and people were signing the documents to include the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine.
Yeah,
we're signing multiple agreements. Putin says that at least, and that in the middle of it, Zelensky gets a call from Biden. No, from Boris.
Boris, yes.
Yeah, the Prime Minister
the
of
UK dude. Yeah,
Prime Minister of. Britain. So he
Boris,
he says no
Boris
with
Johnson.
pressure of him. Boris. My name is Boris.
You eat that sausage.
007.
Yes.
007.
So
Boris?
Biden 000.
double zero, just flat zero. So he sits there and convinces or persuades Zelensky to not go with the deal. Now, I'm not saying that wasn't the right thing. Maybe the deal sucked. But I think I speak for everyone that maybe we're missing something. I'd love to have nailed it all out, but I think we're showing, you guys already said it. I've been all over Ukraine. Dude, I've been to Ukraine 6 times, man.
Yeah.
So I know it.
Yeah.
I understand the people.
I think as well, how someone called him to stop the agreement? Yep. I think that actually happened. 100%.
Oh, 100%.
It's very plausible.
Zelensky is a new president.
Yeah.
Think about this. He's brand new to this.
Yep.
He's at war.
It's like someone leading you, man.
And they're not like a hyper wealthy country too. So you start talking about yanking funds and doing this and doing that, losing protection. And that's pretty scary shit.
We will pull all of our resources from you if you agree to this.
Yeah.
So maybe it will work, but you're done if it doesn't.
And I think that's what pisses Putin off a lot of times because I mean, that's the vibe that I got is like, why are you guys constantly effing with me?
And that's what I talked about earlier.
Sure.
The
I think that's
fair.
Yeah.
You mentioned, I think that's real. That's like a real
thing. It's 100% real. It's real for me.
Yeah.
I know in the Army, we always trained against Russia.
Yeah.
There was
constantly.
I remember.
And for what real reason? That's what's crazy. Because it's not the Soviet era.
I shouldn't say.
I know, but it's like
there. I remember.
I don't think. Sorry to cut you off.
No,
I don't think that. I do think that Russia is our enemy, 100%. I'm not saying that can't change. He was talking about, he said something crazy, not a tangent here, but he said something crazy that after this war, the relationship between Russia and Ukraine will heal. And I always say that's impossible. Wait a second.
Yeah.
We have the strongest relationship, I would say, than any other country with the people that we had a revolution against.
Yeah.
We literally are best buds with the same people
Or Japan.
we slaughtered on the battlefield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And developed our country and broke away.
Yeah.
So maybe he's right there, but
he quotes a lot of philosophers and shit too. Like you can hear in his voice, like he
and he's ambiguous.
He does a ton of reading.
And he knows how to orchestrate his words so that he doesn't answer the question where it puts him in a box, which is really smart.
Yeah.
And it makes you think that because he didn't answer it this way, that the interpretation would be favorable, which is probably not, or he would just answer it.
Yeah.
But I think, I'm going to kind of wind this down, I guess, but dude, this wars happen throughout history.
Sure they do.
Personally, I have a huge bias in this one, and I'm trying to put that aside to be objective.
Yeah.
There are a lot of people dying, man. People I know, people my friends know, people we all may know. And it's senseless. And even the Russians, man. Okay, whatever. I'm not a huge fan of Russia, especially right now.
Yeah.
But dude, we've got young men dying for a cause that no one understands.
I have a solution to it. I do.
Go ahead.
It's United States steps in. We take over both countries, Russia and Ukraine. Just like when little kids can't share. Yeah. You guys can't share.
We get
along.
Yeah.
Nobody gets anything.
Take their ball away. Yeah.
I mean, that's on a realistic note. I mean, the only way I think to calm it down would be to. I don't even know. I'm not a military strategist.
I think if they already lost Crimea, they're not getting that back. There's no way they're going to get that back.
They're going to give Luhansk and Donetsk back.
That's the only thing I would give it up, because honestly, and you probably this, they have not held that region since 2014.
Yeah. They have not.
So why are they fighting?
Well, either of those three.
No.
It's like they should just sign the agreement to give up that. While they're not, they're holding.
It always seems like there's such a territorial issue.
The thing is, they're holding, right? Yeah. That's the big thing. So I think of it like this, right? They have so much funding from the world with new equipment.
Yeah.
Think of it like a strategy. They give up these regions, because right now Russia is still pushing. They're going to take, what's that city called? They're just going Advitka or...
Medeka?
No, it starts with an A. They've been encircling it.
Andriivka? I don't know.
Yes, Andriivka.
Is it? Okay.
Right now, that's like the main battle for Ukraine.
Was on point with that, dude.
It almost sounds like a girl's name, but sure. That might be right.
It's something. It starts with
This is my wife.
This is my
They are
Jana.
A lot of people's dying. That's the main battle right now for Ukraine. Right now, that's going on.
Yeah.
They're encircling. They're taking over the city.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to keep happening.
If there is not agreement, I think that Russia will push all the way to the Dnipro River and divide it. And everything east of the Dnipro, they'll end this. They'll say, we get everything east of the Dnipro. And by the way, the Dnipro almost cuts the country in half, feeds directly to the Black Sea. Yeah. And if this is the Dnipro River, Kiev is right here.
Yeah.
Okay? So that is a losing situation, dude.
Think back to what you said, though, about the whole gun to your head thing as far as negotiations. I think right now, from a pride point, Zelensky doesn't want to do it from a pride point. But I think from the egg on your face thing was perfect, the way you said that for Putin.
That's huge. He's a man who has not been respected with a very respectable force.
I mean, if you think about it, though, realistically, and that was such a good point, I think personally, everyone's like, oh, they're operating with Cold War era stuff. They're not. Right now they are, because they can. But if they wanted to, I really feel like no matter who steps in, if they wanted to get momentum and devastate Ukraine, they could.
Oh, they could take Ukraine tonight, and I'm not even joking about that.
They just can't. They can't seem to maintain air superiority. And I say this over and over again, and I am not a strategist, so I don't know, but I believe that you have to lock down the air. And we've got drones and all this stuff, but dude, they're hitting huge ships of Russia. They're hitting large oil factories inside of Russia.
You know what I'm surprised they haven't hit, though, which really is surprising, is their carrier. I'm really surprised they haven't hit their carrier.
I wonder if there's a point where
It's too far.
you push you can take out the little guys, but
Well,
if
they
you
hit
take
that,
the big
that
guy,
guided missile destroyer, Chavanovitz or some, Brian talked about.
I know this ship. Anyway, it's the one where
they flew the
they're
drones into it.
They're on Snake Island.
Yeah,
And they say that's real. They're like this is the Russian warship. You know, surrender. They're gonna be blown apart. And they're like, "V'nachwe," you know. Like,
I think if what
piss
they
off.
would do, I think they'd take subs and
Bad
cut off
words.
any supply. I think it would. The reason for it though is if we're supplying Russia or Ukraine, excuse me, and they decide
never know.
they decide that true. They decide they want to cut off the Russians want to cut off supply, so they set up a subnet and all this stuff, and they engage the United States. Well, all of a sudden now you've pissed the United States off,
Bear,
and you've kicked the
bear.
hornet's nest.
And
It's like in Battlefield.
bear.
You know, like in Battlefield 5 when you're playing, you know, and you like shoot a sniper rifle at a tank in the game, and all of a sudden it like turns and looks at you.
Yeah.
Like, dude, I wasn't gonna kill you with that.
No,
like you just
I'm
die,
dead.
you know. I think it's one of those things. I think it's what you guys were talking about, that it's just being toyed with. That's what I really think.
Yeah.
I think he can keep it going forever.
He can.
Or until Ukraine runs out.
He's using prisoners.
Or we
And
stop
He's
supporting.
using prisoners. He's using, honestly, cannon fodder. People right off the streets,
Yeah.
guys, no training at all, not giving him weapons, giving him a rifle here, like old tactics.
Do you think, and I kind of lost my train of thought here, but do you think that it could get to a point where, you know, I'm not saying that the Ukrainians could run out of military age men or something like that, but like where you start not just mercenaries from the United States, what Putin was saying, but them trying to recruit other
dumb
countries for stuff like that, you know, pulling people from like Germany or Poland or stuff like that.
Well, that's...
I think there's enough, dude. Russia has historically never had an issue with
people.
I'm talking about Ukraine.
They just keep going.
Right.
Yeah.
I know. I'm just making that statement.
Yeah.
Russia has never had an issue with having bodies.
Yeah.
I
And
think
Ukraine
what's really bad...
has only so many bodies.
You know what I think it's really bad? And this, I've been thinking about this a lot, right?
Yeah.
They have...
What's on your mind, buddy?
40, 60 million people in Ukraine. I think like around
How
that.
much?
40 to 60 million.
I thought he said 40, 60 million. Like, what's that number, dude?
40 to 60 million.
40,000 million.
400 million thousand dollars.
800
Say 900
minutes.
That's a lot of minutes, dude.
That's
All right,
a lot of
so
minutes.
sorry, man. We're overhauling you. What's up?
So they have a big populace,
Yeah.
like a respectable one, and they're at war, thinking about losing their nation.
Yeah.
And they only have
Their
how many
generation.
100,000 people on the front line?
Yeah.
That's embarrassing, right? I would say for Ukraine, they should step it up and get like 2 million people on the front line.
They show a force.
And it's just
sure.
ridiculous to me. Like
Yeah.
they're about to lose their country, and they're not even stepping up to the plate.
I have
Right.
fully agree with you,
And
and
it makes no sense.
I
right?
can't say I don't want to
Oh, yeah,
defame
no,
anyone, dude.
yeah.
No.
But I'll say that if
I know where you're
someone
going with this.
if someone was on
Oh yeah,
our doorstep
dude, we would.
and
be-
my family is having to go to another country,
Yeah.
or if they're killing people
Yeah.
on my turf,
Yeah.
dude, we going to war.
Oh, dude,
I don't
in
care.
America,
I can die
100
5
million
times,
people,
man.
bam, just like that.
I
on
mean
the border.
that.
I always said this about the United States because they were talking about like China invading or the Russians or something like that, right? I have buddies that will sit in a tree stand for like 8 hours to kill a deer.
Yeah.
How long do you think they'd sit there if they thought they could bag a person, dude, and get away with it?
That was trying to hurt.
I mean, dude, they would be like the
Exactly.
Japanese with a
Yeah.
cup of rice and a canteen of water for 2 weeks up
Yeah,
there,
they're
dude,
inside the actual
I
tree.
mean, like they are all about it, dude. So that kind of stuff. I mean, I think the Americans themselves
Well, we are a war country.
Yeah,
And honestly, our minds are geared to that.
Yeah.
We're gonna win no matter what.
Yeah.
Our older, at least our older generation.
Yeah,
like
the new generation
this
are
so
a bunch,
soft. They get
yeah, dude, they are
But
pussies. I mean,
back to my
point.
point.
I mean, they're
yeah, they are.
pussies.
Yeah.
They're fucking.
But back to my
soft, dude.
point, right? Like
They are soft.
Or Sean
and
Strickland,
yours.
dude.
Yeah, we don't.
Oh, dude, we get him on here.
Of him. You know what I'm
We'll
saying?
have one long beat for like 2 minutes straight of him just going.
But that right there, that simple thing of
Sure.
they have the people now, and they're just playing games.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's really bad,
Yeah.
and I don't think they're really trying to win. If they really wanted to win,
Yeah.
Zelensky,
Yeah, I don't see that motive. They're scared of dying, dude.
you are.
What about your
dying.
family?
Yeah, you
Yeah.
are dying, and
I mean, we're not in that
That's insane.
situation, so it's hard to like. Maybe some people thought when it weasel out will,
Yeah.
vice versa.
Yeah.
I'm
well,
just gonna.
when they were on the doorstep of Kiev, right? They were just hanging out.
Yeah.
In the little villages outside Kiev, like the people, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing?"
Oh,
Yeah.
there was one real bad.
Really
Bucha. I
bad.
think it was Bucha.
Yeah, that was bad. But
Mm-hmm.
that right
Dude.
there, that simple thing, they are not trying to win fully.
No, dude.
In
No.
Ukraine, I wonder actually the number of how many
Able.
soldiers. No, something different. So how many
Okay.
soldiers, mercenaries, global people going there to fight? Like the actual
lot.
number.
Yeah. It's
Dude,
lot.
on a train. I'm not gonna get too far in that, but on a train
We're getting close to the end anyway, so we gotta.
from Poland to Ukraine, there was a ton of guys who
Yeah.
were, and I don't think that they were bloodthirsty. I think they were just wanting. They felt a noble cause that was worth dying for versus some of the other questionable causes in the world.
Yeah.
And so that is happening. But I would say, I don't know if this is going to get 5 views or 5 million views.
Yeah.
Okay. But if it does get 5+ million views, I just hope that someone understands that regardless of what the American people are told,
Yeah.
there's a history of things.
Sure.
You need to go do your research before you start saying something and agreeing with someone on either side.
We're such a lazy generation.
And we have more resources than ever.
I mean, dude, to be able
Ever.
to not have to go to a library to get a
Yeah.
book to read.
Yeah.
I mean, blindly following politicians doesn't matter if they're
Yeah,
left or
one
right
interview.
or whatever, dude. That's
One
like what drives me crazy about that dude Anthony Oliver, that dude that has that was that really popular song, I was telling my soul.
Mhm.
Working on that, you remember that
Oh
song?
yeah.
And like I remember, like the video had been out, his music video had been out, and it just went viral. It was like a week, and people are like, "This dude for president!" Like you don't even fucking know this guy, okay?
You
like,
don't know his capabilities.
and that
if they met,
happens so much
bandwagon stuff.
with all of this crap, dude. And it's like, or why don't we get to know the person a little bit? See if your viewpoints even align. You know, things about like past stuff or like. Whatever, but as long as like the future is looking pretty bright for this person, then yeah, we can talk about it. But like just that kind,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That drives me.
Well, absolutely.
crazy, dude.
It's just we're blindly going directions, and I appreciate Tucker Carlson. Now, this is what I was gonna say. I appreciate him
I'm gonna get his face
setting that up, man. Yeah, he has a very good like interest face, but also puzzled the whole time.
Yeah,
Thank you for going ahead and getting this out there because we have to hear it, but also the American people need to understand that just because there was one interview
yeah,
doesn't mean that what this man who's historically been our enemy
yeah,
or the head of our enemy was telling the truth.
Sure.
And even if he is, there are things in there that are for sure
yeah.
incorrect. And above all, I hope that this ends. And I hope it ends with the sovereignty of Ukraine intact and stop killing this generation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree, dude.
I agree.
I agree.